Okay, today I will be developing a photograph of a pond flower that I took. To open it in Gimp, you can either drag it and drop it to the Gimp window, you can use File Open from the Gimp window, or you can just right click and choose Edit with Gimp. Now, if you have a digital camera and you've installed your software that came with your camera, one of those pieces of software is called a codec. And that explains to the computer how to use the color profile that's embedded in the image. As I always install my codec, I'm going to go ahead and hit convert. And what that does is convert it to a system-friendly RGB color scheme that can be seen clearly on any computer. Okay, now the first thing I do whenever I work on a photograph is I'm going to press Control D or go to Image Duplicate so that I'm working off a copy and not the original. Then I'll close the original just to make certain that I'm not going to inadvertently make any changes. I like to use as much real estate as possible, so we will go to View, Zoom, Fit Image and Window, and that automatically blows the image up to fit that screen. Now I'm going to go View, Shrink Wrap. That gets rid of that little extra white space that was at the top and bottom of the image. Now, there's a lot of stuff I wish to do with this photograph. First of all, it's kind of bland. It lacks that pop of color, that pizzazz. The flower came out faded considerably more than what it actually is in real life. The time of day I took this photo, the sun was shining bright on it, and thus kind of bleached out our shot. I took the photograph at the wrong time of day, basically. Now, to correct our photograph here, we're going to go through 3 steps. Curves, we're actually going to sharpen the image up, and then we're going to look at saturation. So let's start with curves, and let's try to get our tones, our brightness and contrast to a point where it is more close to the actual flower. Okay, this is the curves window. And as you saw, you can go to it from colors, curves. In this window, you can do many things. You can adjust the brightness and contrast. You can also adjust each individual color value. If you have a picture or a photograph that the color tones are not correct, this is one of the tools you can use to fix that. Now you'll see a little histogram in here, and what we want to do is make certain that we're at the start and end of the histogram. Now if you look over here, you have black to light. These are your tones. You have your dark tones, your mid tones, and then your lighter tones. So by adjusting these, we can make a great impact on our photograph. We can make the darker tones even darker still, or we can make them lighter. We can do almost anything we want with our photograph right here in the curves window. Now I used to preach just do a simple S-curve and then use levels, but I've gotten away from that as using the curves window by itself really is not difficult. It's nothing to be afraid of. Any change you make you can undo. If you go too far, you know it right away. And about there is actually what I want to see for this photograph. So we're going to hit OK, and that saves the changes. Now we can go back to the original. Now let's look at what we changed it to. As you can tell, it brought back a lot more of that lavender, that light lavender color for the photograph. And the next thing we're going to do is adjust the saturation. We're going to give it a little bit more saturation. And again, we'll be going into colors, hue, saturation. And I never raise saturation above 20. And the reason for that is anything above 20 tends to add color noise. You'll have these little specks of color in random places on your photograph. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK on that. And again, by just hiding that layer, we can view the difference between the previous layer and even the original. Now our last step is actually unsharp mask. And contrary to its name, we will sharpen the image. We're not going to make it duller, we're going to make it a little bit sharper. So we're going to go into Colors, Components, Decompose, and we'll choose HSV, which stands for Hue, Saturation, and Value. And that brings up a window that is less than appealing and a little confusing to look at. Now we'll hide the hue and saturation layers, leaving just the value, which makes it almost look like a slide of sorts. Then we're going to go to Filters, Enhance, Unsharp Mask. And it's very important to make certain you have that value layer selected. Now we're going to move our little view here to something that I think should be sharper than what it is, and we'll use that one. Now typically it starts with a radius of 5 and 0.5 on the amount, and typically that's enough for most photographs. On this one, however, I'm going to go actually to a 1 on the amount. And again, play with the settings. Any changes you make, don't go to the actual picture until we're ready for it. It takes a few seconds for it to process, and there it is. Now, if you were looking closely, you saw a small change. And that's all I'm going for, is small, subtle changes. So I've recomposed it back into the original photograph, so we can close this hue saturation value image. And there is our image, but sharper. Here's what it was like after the saturation. And you can tell the leaves are kind of blurred out a little bit, as is our flower itself. After the unsharp mask, it brought it all, the flower, the leaf, it brought everything back in a little bit sharper. Again, before and after. And the change is so subtle, it's almost non-recognizable. Now let's go to a larger zoom, okay? So, there's after the saturation, there's after the unsharp mask. Again, you can see the softness of the flower in this shot, and here it's sharper. We can see more of the hairs on the various parts of the flower. So let's go back to our zoom view, zoomed out view. And this is essentially everything that I feel this photograph needs. I will go ahead and save it, export it as a JPG file, and upload it for various things. I'll probably also crop it to more use the rule of thirds. I hope you found this video beneficial. Have a nice day.